I have the answer for you for all of your problems in your life. It's a simple answer, but it actually takes effort and work. And what I'm going to tell you in this video is exactly how to figure out the answer to any and all of your problems. Okay, funny, but there's no simple answer to anyway, there's no clear and simple answer for any of the problems in your life. Every single problem or issue or misunderstanding you're having is very unique, right? Maybe they can be the same problem as someone else had, and they can talk about it and help you resolve those issues. But for example, and you've probably encountered this, when you go talk to someone, maybe a friend or a family member, they try to give you advice, and sometimes it doesn't feel that good when they're giving you advice. It's like, that's not the advice I want. Like, why are you telling me that? Or maybe you feel a disconnect because they're just telling you stuff, they're not actually listening to you, and then you're gonna waste time, and then you might tell someone else and the same thing happens. So go and talk to people about some issue or misunderstanding or whatever it is, if it's a misunderstanding in your own life, might not be the right plan, right? If it's a misunderstanding with someone else, you're trying to work through something to improve your relationship, yes, you need to talk to them. But if it's something within yourself, you need to figure out the solution on your own. A lot of times we have the answer, right? Like if you want to lose weight, but you haven't done it for years, you know what you need to do, you just haven't done it. So how do you actually figure out how to lose the weight? You've been hating the job for a long time and you want to leave, you want to find another job. You know what you need to do, but you just haven't done it yet. So, we could talk about the whys, but let's just talk about the how to actually make the change. So some people, what they'll do is they'll pray. They'll pray to a higher power, hoping for the change to happen. I think this is beneficial because they're talking about their issue and they're bringing it up on top of their mind often. They're thinking about it. Now, they're not actually trying to figure out how to resolve it, but they're actually talking about it and keeping it on top of their mind. This also goes with the law of attraction. By thinking about something constantly, the results that you want will happen. The reason why is you're seeing more opportunities in the world. Because what some people do is when they have an issue, they try not to think about it at all. They try to push it back into the back of their brain. Maybe it's their subconscious. It's still there. There's still an issue. So that's why it's in your subconscious. It's still lying there, but they're not trying to resolve it anymore. And because they're not trying to resolve it anymore, that issue just stays for a very long time. And when opportunities show themselves, you don't see it. You just can't see it. There's no opportunities around you. Everyone else is getting lucky, not you. But if you're praying about it, or if you're thinking about it, or if you're meditating on it, or if you're doing something like that, you might see more opportunities. But let's take that a step further. Now, we want to figure out a solution to the problem, so we actually need to think about solutions to the problem. So rather than just thinking about and saying what the problem is, we're going to think about solutions. So it's like the next step in like praying or meditating or whatever it is. So you could just sit there, right? Like I could sit in this chair. Oops, just sat on the arm. I could sit in this chair and I could stare at a wall, right? Like I'm just going to stare at this wall and I'm just going to sit here for a while. Oh man, I'm like a goof right now. But you could just sit and think. And some people say that's beneficial. Honestly, like you could do that every once in a while. This is the next step, right? So you're taking a seat and you're thinking. And if you ever get really depressed in life, you'll probably end up doing a lot of time like this, or like laying in your bed, not doing anything, and just having all these negative thoughts. So this can actually spiral into a negative state. If it's too much things in your life that are going wrong and you're not actively trying to fix them. One problem that I see that happens when you sit here and just think is that you jump from one thought to another thought to another thought. And your mind constantly jumps around between thoughts. And some people say that if you do this, it helps clear the thoughts. If you do this often, it can help clear all the thoughts. That's a potential thing that could happen, is the thoughts clear out. But we want to take it one step further. We want to resolve these problems. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how you figure out the solution to the problems. So bear with me here while we look at my journal. We're going to also take a seat right in front of the window and enjoy the view while we look at the journal. So rather than going through and trying to make some edits or videos or something like that, I really think writing and drawing is very helpful for me. So I'm just going to use this. I'm going to make sure I don't show you any pages I shouldn't be showing you, to explain how to resolve this issue, okay? So let's start here. I think I can show you this stuff. So I think the best solution is journaling, and I'm going to explain why I think journaling specifically is the best way to get through a thought, right? We've talked about some ways to work through a solution, but this is just going to be extremely basic. This is like the fundamentals of this. So right here, we're going to see a linear thought. Okay, so we start walking through a specific thought. A is the thought that we're initially having. When we have this thought, it brings us to the next step of this thought, then the next step, right? We can have an example here of like, today was a bad day at work. My boss is really mean to me. I really haven't liked any day at work. I haven't been happy for a year, okay? Let's just use that as an example. This is a streamlined thought, a linear thought. And so what happens if we're sitting in that chair, if we just initially just have this thought at any point in time, the thoughts start to deviate from the linear point, right? So we got all the way here to the end of this thought where we're thinking we haven't been happy for a long time. And then we think, oh man, I haven't worked out for a long time. I should really go to the gym. I should do the other thing. And then it jumps off to another thought about like, oh man, who's that person that I met yesterday for coffee? And then you think about coffee. So like you just completely jumped off this initial thought, okay? Be true with yourself. You know this happens. This happens to everybody. Our brains just love thinking about all kinds of things. Sometimes if you try to meditate or something, like it's like, oh, my brain jumps everywhere. Yes, it does. Anyway, so this next one, I'm just going to explain it rather than just like continuing to read each one of these. But so, well, we could see the same thing, right? We see this zigzag pattern. The same thing happened here, right? So we made it to the end of that thought. Think about we haven't liked the job for a while, and then we're on this zigzag thought, right? All the way up to I. So the same exact thing is up there. And now we're like, wait. I was thinking about the job that I was doing, or that I have and I'm not happy with. Where was I in that thought? Oh, yeah, I wasn't happy with the job. So you might start back here, or maybe you're like, wait, I haven't been happy for a long time in the job. So you're trying to jump back to that same thought, but these lines are dotted because you might not be able to remember exactly where you were on that thought. And then if you jump here, then you might walk back through the thought, or the thought might be different or go in some different path. So it's not a very reliable way to get back to the same thought because you're trying to work to find a solution, right? So if you aren't able to jump back to where you were, then it's harder to find a solution. It'll just take a lot longer, years, or maybe it'll never happen. So I think journaling is really important because it locks in the information. So this square represents putting down a thoughts and writing. You're locking the information here, so you have it. So this example is the information that we've locked down, right? These thoughts about the job, we haven't liked it for a while. And then all of a sudden it deviates off of this path, right? You start thinking about the gym and coffee, all this stuff, and your mind jumps around. You're all the way over here again. But the benefit is that even though you jumped all the way around and now you're like thinking about the coffee and stuff like that after you jumped around in these thoughts, you're like, wait, I was thinking about the job that I haven't liked for a long time. I should think about that again. You open back up the journal, or you look at your writing, whatever you did, because sometimes when you're writing, you might look up, you might enjoy the view for a little bit, sit there, and then like, wait, what was I thinking about again? You come down, you look at it, and then you can see where you were. You can reread all the thoughts and see where you were before, which helps you move past where you were before quicker, easier, more effectively than ever before, right? Seriously, you're jumping all over. And then because you're doing that, you can keep moving forward in your thoughts. And by doing this, you will be able to find a solution rather than, there's nothing else, right? I'm not going to show you rather than jumping around and trying to hopefully come back to some solution. This is a simple example. This is the fundamentals of figuring out solutions for all of your issues. I challenge you to try this method. You've probably tried other methods. You've probably tried praying before. You've probably tried thinking about it, staring at a wall, or talking to someone else. This is how you work to find a solution. I hear a lot of people tell me that they are like running away from their problems and like hopefully it'll resolve itself or they'll kind of forget about it. It really doesn't happen. It moves to your subconscious. And I think a lot of these things add up over time. And then you're not able to focus properly. Like there's so many things pulling on your mind that you need to resolve these things. And by journaling and by writing about it, you can resolve these issues. So I hope you found this helpful. Won't make this video too much longer. But if you have questions on journaling or thoughts on it, I would love to hear them because I think journaling is a huge part of my life. I carry a journal with me all the time. Always have to be writing information in it. There's a bunch of different ways I use the journal, but to figure out solutions to issues and problems I've been having, it's one of the top methods, right? I'll just slightly put in there, there's other things like you could hire coaches that are experts in areas that you want to grow in or something like that, but journaling can help you figure out a lot of issues on your own. I'll leave you with that. See ya.